Good morning, John, and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, thanks everyone for joining us too, and for being on this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today, we've got Jon Sheridan from the Total Body Fit Camp. And John, we're excited to learn a little bit more about you today and a bit more about the business. So the essence of the Business Spotlight is for our viewers to learn a little bit more about you and the business, and to inspire people who are thinking about getting into their business or are in business already and looking to start that entrepreneurial journey. So if you can just let everybody know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So I'm Jon Sheridan. I run a outdoor fitness program, like you said, Total Body Fit Camp, and it's large group training. I've been a personal trainer for 20 years, but I've been running this particular business for 13 years come this January.
Wow, that's a long time. That's really good. Well, so what would you say the journey's been like so far, and what makes you stand out from the other sort of fit camps that are out there, John?
The journey's been a very, very interesting one. Like any business, I guess it's had its, challenges along the way. In terms of standing out with other businesses in our sector, I always say, first off, our green hoodie. I think that makes us stand out quite a bit. But also, I'd say number one is that we're not for everybody. We certainly target a demographic which I believe, we train, or we know how to train, helping them get stronger, leaner, tone up, and rebuild their confidence and self-esteem. But also, we're outside. There's no bells and whistles on this. When I say that, I mean there's no machines, there's no sauna, there's no swimming pool, there's no roof, there's no changing rooms. Right. So we are literally outside in the elements. And personally, I think a lot of that stuff can be quite a distraction for people when actually, if they're looking really to, improve their health and fitness and they've been stuck with getting their results, that, you really just need to look at the basics. And I strongly believe that's what we do really, really well. And I'd say that's probably the biggest, difference between us with, certain other commercial gyms or other fitness businesses out there.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference being outside, especially at this time of year when you get all the different types of weather.
Oh yeah. I mean, actually saying that as well, I'd say the community is really strong. And I think being outside and doing it in all those different types of, being in the UK and how variable the weather is, I think that just builds it even more, because you stand next to someone and you're like, oh, we're mental together. So,
Yeah. So that's brilliant. That's a great share as well, especially talking about the community. It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it's literally up there as number one with building any sort of business, especially in the service sector. Like building that community up is stronger than anything. I'd say a lot of our members, after that, initially they join us, and after a few weeks they're thinking, do you know what, this community is just like, really energizing, inspiring. It's not, with us, it's not a competitive environment either. You literally come down, there's no real judgment from anybody. You just are able to do what you can do at your ability. And you've got the encouragement there from other people. I think there is an element that people have a little bit of subconscious competitiveness in them. So when they see the person next to them like pushing themselves quite hard, you're like, all right, maybe I should be pushing myself like a little bit harder as well. But I think that's great. And it's, to the benefit of yourself, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on it earlier. You mentioned that you've been running the camp now for 13 years. So just give us a bit of a snippet of the last sort of 13 years, sort of like some of the trials and tribulations, and where you're at now, John.
Yeah, an interesting one. And because 13 years ago, I literally had nothing. I was a PT driving to people's houses, and it wasn't really going anywhere. I had to find something that was going to start making me, a bit more money. Otherwise, I was very, very close to jacking it all in and finding something else. In fact, I went for a couple of other interviews in the medical industry because I was struggling to make it work. But yeah, on a wing and a prayer on Christmas of 2010, I was walking around my local town, Hertford, with my wife in the snow, putting leaflets through doors because unbelievably, 12, 13 years ago, social media was kind of just starting, really. It was very, very new. There wasn't the advertising on there. So yeah, it was all leaflet drops. And then come January, I had 19 people over 3 separate groups. So turn up into a village hall initially. And then by March, we'd grown too big for the village hall. So I was like, where else can I go? And there was very limited availability in my town. So the field down the road was the only option. So we were in a field, were there for about 4 or 5 years. It was really nice because it was secluded. Yep. Not a lot of footfall, which could have actually worked against the business because people didn't really see it. But actually, again, going back to our demographic, so a lot of them were maybe a little bit vulnerable, maybe a little bit insecure about how they looked, how unfit they were. So actually, it was a really nice environment to train in. And we loved it down there. But as the years went on, the condition of the field, not from us, just from weather. There was a river that went around it. It kept flooding and flooding. I had to cancel some sessions. So I was like, right, I've got to find somewhere else. So then that moved us to a farm. So actually on the field, no overheads, right? So that was all great. Went to a farm, knew the people that owned it. They didn't really charge me very much. So again, great, not massive overheads, but we would turn up. It was very uneven ground. The risk was very high. There was one day we turned up, the sleet was coming down horizontally. So we went into the barn beside where we were working out and shared it with the lambs. I was just like, this was all arranged previously, and then I turn up and there's lambs in there. I was just like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Luckily, the members were all great, but yeah, for hygiene, I don't think it was that great. So I was like, right, I really need to find somewhere else. And that's when I thought, right, where am I going to take this? I'm going to have to start really looking at paying for a decent location, having that overhead. And that's when we found the school that we're at now. And we get access to that AstroTurf pitch, still outside. As it's AstroTurf, all weather, makes it far more appealing to members as well. And we've got a great relationship with them, which is key with building a business, and we get access to it all the time. We've got, storage units up there, so I don't have to keep, transporting my kit all around. And yeah, it's just grown and grown and grown from there. So yeah, from a field to a farm to a school now.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
What were the lambs like at burpees?
Oh, well, I think they were a little, I don't know who was more shocked, us or the lambs. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, look, that brings us up to speed. So what's the future look like, Jon? I mean, what do you think are going to be the main challenges for you coming up?
So we, with the team, because I work, my sister's in the team as well, and she's very good on the marketing side of everything. And we put our heads together all the time to really improve our services. I'd say we are possibly a little bit sort of restricted and limited being outside and not actually having a established venue compared to sort of other businesses within the sector. But the future certainly looks exciting. Health and fitness is very much more going down the wellness route. So we're looking at, breath work, meditation, yoga, a lot of those things. There's this gong yoga now that people are really, so there's a lot of that going on within the business now. So yeah, just opening up a little bit more rather than just offering the training sessions and the coaching through nutrition. But yeah, the challenge is, well, when I first started, there wasn't actually very many people doing what I was doing in our town or in other towns. And you can pretty much, I mean, I spent nearly 3 months getting my qualification. You can get my qualification in a weekend now.
Wow.
Pretty much. You can become a personal trainer over a weekend. So a lot of people are doing it. You know, whether it's people that have a real passion for it or people that are stay-at-home mum or dads that want to earn a little bit extra on the side. There's so many options. All the gyms that are coming up, the 24-hour gyms coming up. There's just a lot of options for people now. And actually saying that online.
Yeah.
Online. Since COVID, that's, you know, even bigger now. So I'd say I've always said that there's enough people to go around.
Yeah.
And it's good to know your competition. But, you know, in my head, I'm always like, right, there's always enough people going around, but you really have to be out there. Yeah. The awareness always has to be there if you're gonna win at that. So yeah, those are the challenges.
Yeah, no, that's some really good valid points there, John. Thanks for that. So moving on to yourself as the business owner, I mean, what would you say has been your biggest lesson that stands out so far?
There's certainly been a few. But I'd say the main one really, and this is probably for anybody that's really starting up a business as well, is that you can't solely rely on word of mouth. It is a great one because you get like-minded people in as well. But I relied on that for so many years, rather than looking into other streams of advertising and marketing. And as a result of that, it really put me back as a business. So if I was to look back, there was a bit of a dip in about 2014 and 15. And that was because I wasn't using different strategies to get people in.
Yeah.
And thought that word of mouth was the strongest and main one.
Yeah. And there's so many others that you can work with. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I guess that kind of leads me on quite nicely to my next question, John, because so if you were able to sort of go back in time, let's go back even further than, 13 years ago. Let's go back, I'm assuming here. Let's go back to when John was 18 years old.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give an 18-year-old John just starting out in business?
I would honestly say, do not be afraid to fail. I think there was a lot of time where I just pondered on something for such a long time.
Yeah.
Whether I actually executed it or not, I think if I just carried on just going, had an idea, go for it, see what happens. And I think there's, maybe it's Richard Branson says it, like, your success is gauged on how many fails you've had. So yeah, just give it a go. You never quite know what's going to happen. And that sort of shows that, like, with me running a fitness camp in a field,
yeah,
people be like, really? I'm like, I don't know, it might work. Let's give it a go.
Yeah.
But I think in that sense, I had nothing else.
No.
So yeah. And also, if I'm going a little bit older than 18, I'd say know your numbers.
Yeah.
Know the numbers. Not as in how many people with what I'm doing, how many people you're training. No, get financial literacy. Like,
yeah,
it's the way up there, number one with knowing how to run a business. And I think, I've gone from being a personal trainer to actually being a business owner, but it took me actually quite a long time to realize that data and numbers is key.
It is key, isn't it? I mean, no one's expecting anybody to become an accountant, but you've got to be able to understand, your P&L, have some form of cash flow forecasting, looking at balance sheets, that kind of thing, because it's a massive jump from being a personal trainer to being a business owner and understanding some of the fundamental basics of running a business.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make there. Like, I'm not an accountant, but you do need to know a little bit about it. But there is also, yeah, certainly get an accountant, get help wherever you
Yeah,
don't. It's not your expertise, and you're not expected to be the expert at it, but you need to know a little bit about it
yeah,
uh, to know exactly where you are. And clarity is everything. Otherwise, you've just got chaos.
absolutely. And none of us like chaos. None of us like chaos. We like the calm.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So, John, what inspires you? What is it that sort of puts that fire in your belly that gets you up every morning at, I'm guessing, 4:30, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, yeah, early. So I was always interested in sports, so I knew I always wanted to be a personal trainer. But actually, with this business, uh, I went through quite a few sort of tragedies in my life. One of them being my mum. She went through breast cancer, and so that was pretty much my sort of inspiration to sort of get out there and help people, improve their health, fitness, and well-being. So yeah, I'd say family as well, not just my mum, but I've got a young family now as well, and I've got a great team. It's taken a long time to build. I've
Yeah,
had a lot of shockers. Hire slow and fire fast is one thing I was told a long
yeah,
time. It couldn't be
great
more
piece of
true.
advice.
But got a great team now. They're fully invested in the business. They inspire me, and also our members. We've got a lot of members that have got some great stories from before they started with us and then on their journey with us that they share with everyone. And that's something that really, puts the fire in me is hearing that. And we give them the tools, but at the end of the day, the members are the ones that have to turn up and do
Yeah,
the work. So it's just great to see, them get life-changing results, and whether that, and a lot of the time, Mark, it isn't just the weight loss, it's coming off medication or
yeah,
being able to do a challenge that they've put off for years and years and years. I think all those things, the medication, the challenges, the moving without aches and pains, is far more superior than the weight loss. The weight, as long as you focus on those, the weight loss is always secondary. So hearing those stories is always great and
yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah, no, that must be really heartwarming to hear that, and sort of the differences that you guys have made. That's got to be really good.
Yeah, yeah, and it inspires. It feeds through the community as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, John, lastly, just moving back onto the business with regards to sort of what's coming up, if you've got any
Yeah.
news or any special offers that you'd like to share with our viewers today.
Well, yeah, being near the end of the year, we're running our last couple of 6-week programs. We call them the 6-week kickstart because that's exactly what it is. It's helping people kickstart their fitness for the first time or getting back into it. So we've got that running towards the end of the year. And yeah, you can certainly find out more about that and us on our website, which is www.totalbodyfitcamp.co.uk.
Okay.
And yeah, it's got our timetable up on there as well and some client experiences as well, which is always good to hear.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic, John. And it's been great to learn more about you and the business. Thanks for sharing. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers will gain from that today. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining us today, John. And thanks for our viewers today, too. That's this episode of the Business Spotlight. Until next time, we'll see you soon.